Welcome, Rotarians, to meeting 5,455 of the Rotary Club of San Jose. Today's greeting line is the Pickleball Committee. All righty, thank you so much. You might have noticed that they had a great demo out there. That's not just for them, that's for you. I heard a lot of people saying that they are pickle curious. They did say that, pickle curious. And if you're a little intimidated, please don't be. Give them a try. They'll be set up after the meeting as well. Give it a try. And I heard a few people saying, hey, I'm not really sure how the rules work. So Pickleball Committee, if you can help them out, that would be awesome. All righty. And of course, Bert George, thank you so much for today's Wednesday wine. We requested that he bring some extra memorabilia out there, and you notice that he brought the beautiful Sharks Magnum. Thanks so much for putting some decor out, too, and welcoming our special program for today. All righty. And, okay, Rotarians with guests or visiting Rotarians, please stand so we can get you introduced. And today's, just cut me off. How about that? There we go. Okay, and today's traveling Red Badgers with microphone, Roxana Khan and Adessa Bitfidel. Please introduce yourself once you have your mics.
Good afternoon. My name is Adessa Bitfidel, founder of Elevate Now Consulting, and my sponsor is Rod Deardon Sr.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adessa. Roxana.
My name is Roxana Khan, and I'm the Director of Individual Giving with Bill Wilson Center, and my sponsor is Matt Black.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, do we have it? We've got one over here that I see.
Good afternoon, Madam President. Nicholas
Hello.
Adams, Classification Public Relations. My guest this afternoon is Darcy Narduzzi, who is the head of the new Silicon Valley office being started now by Plant Construction. Yes, right here in downtown San Jose.
Fantastic. A downtown believer. Welcome.
Hi, Amelia Capsuta with Home First, second meeting. Hopefully, new members soon. Member of the Red Badge Committee. My sponsor is Mary Curtis.
Welcome. Glad to see you back again.
Good afternoon, President Heather. My name is Vivian Tran. My sponsor is Sergeant Aran. I have with me Ella Pond, my colleague at Hoover Kopelka LLP, Family Law Attorneys. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for bringing a guest.
President Heather, Norm.
Hello,
Holberg.
Norm.
My guest is Maria Aji, who's a Senior Appraiser Director with our appraisal firm. We appraised the SAP Arena recently, so she wants to hear the latest.
Fantastic. Welcome. Hi, Sparky.
Hi, President Heather. How are you?
Fantastic. Glad to see you.
Good. Thank you. Glad to be here. And with today's special Sharks program, Jim Sparacco, also known as Sparky, Classification, Sports, and Entertainment. And my sponsor is the always incorrigible Stu Gans. So with today's presentation, we brought a small army from the Sharks organization. To start with, we have Vice President of Communications, Scott Emmert. Senior Vice President of SAP Center and Sharks Ice, John Gustafson. And you'll hear from him a little bit later, but we have TV play-by-play announcer Randy Hahn. And our Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, Chris Shay.
Great crew. Thanks for bringing them out here today.
Hello, President Heather. How are you? I'm over here.
Hello.
Hi. I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Lisa Pesta. She's the CEO of Mary West Credit Union, and she's a former speaker here at Rotary.
Well, welcome back. Thanks for being here. I think that might be it. All righty. Wow, that was, one more. Lenore? Yes. Is Mary here? Oh, yay, thank you. I will, sure. My guest today is Mary Rubin. She is one of the co-founders of the Dancing Cat, downtown San Jose, its very own cat lounge, celebrating 10-year anniversary. Welcome, Mary. Thanks for catching that, Lenore. All righty. Matt Rubin, get up here. Pause to consider. And Kathleen Thomas, you're on deck.
Hello, everybody. Has anybody been to the Dancing Cat Cafe, by the way? So you all know we run a farm animal sanctuary. We literally have 16 cats on our property. The wonderful Dr. Emily Robin and I took a date one day off of our farm sanctuary to go hang out with cats at the Dancing Cat Cafe, and the place is awesome. You can adopt a cat, hang out with a cat, do nothing other than just pet cats. It's fantastic, so definitely check out the Dancing Cat. Kind of relevant to what I'm talking about today, pause to consider. We are a committee that is dedicated to helping animals, anything related to animals, and we have a fun event coming up in the very near future, and that is our pack walk. A pack walk is nothing more than you coming out with your furry little friend and going for a walk with other people and their furry little friends. So last year there were about 10 to 12 of us who went out. We walked around Vasona Park, spent about 2 hours. It's a very casual stroll. Because it's around Halloween, we all tried to dress up. Costumes are optional, but of course they're always encouraged. So we would love for you to join us. It is October 26th at 10:30 or 10 a.m. and it'll run about an hour and a half or two. So if you are interested, please contact Lisa or Dagmar. They are the heads of the Pause Committee, and we would love to see you join us. Thank you.
Great committee. I think that's your debut of the year, the Pause Committee up here. Kathleen Thomas, come on up and tell us about ELC.
Thanks for starting me out. Hi, I am this year's chair of ELC, which is very exciting. I wore my heels so you could see my head above this podium. I'm not here to talk about the Sharks, but I would imagine most of you know about ELC. In case you don't, we take 96 high school juniors down to Asilomar for 3 days and coach them on how to put a business plan together. They separate into teams of 8, and it's a competition, so then they present, and then we have 3 winners, and usually one of the winners will come present to us. I initially scheduled this podium time because we were looking for more discussion group leaders. But today I was informed by our great leader, Audrey Fox, that we have 27 discussion group leaders, which is great. Yeah, that's really awesome. And we're a mixture of 3 clubs, so it's San Jose, Los Gatos Morning, and Los Gatos Proper. And just so you know, how many people in this room, would you raise your hand if you're a member of ELC? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of celebrities, Rotary celebrities in our group. What we are doing this year, this is our mission. So we're really trying to incorporate and elicit as many diverse people as we can, students. We go out and recruit. We have a Rotarian from Los Gatos, Mike Norcia, who helps us recruit at schools. He leads us in teams. And what we're really trying to do, this year we have a relatively new member, Chappie Jones. He helped with me recruit at Andrew Hill last year. But we're really trying to focus on those schools that are underserved. We have a bunch of them. We have a lot of kids that apply from Los Gatos, a lot of kids from Bellarmine. We're trying to hit those schools that really aren't hit, but, that don't have access to other opportunities. If you have connections, now our push is for recruiters. If you have connections at Evergreen, Silver Creek, Yerba Buena, Piedmont Hills, high schools, any of those schools, please come to us, let us know. We want to get to those schools and really encourage those students to apply. There is no cost to students. They go for free, 3 days at the beach. They learn how to put a business plan together, and it really opens doors for them. So, we need your help. Help us out. And if you have any questions, please contact myself or Chair-elect Catherine Vandiver. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Janica Clem, come on up here with Ryan Sebastian, please. We're going to do a new member introduction. Because we can't see you.
I know, I wore my heels, and even though you can't see me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janica Clem with Heritage Bank, and I have the pleasure of introducing our newest member, Thomas Ryan Sebastian. Ryan is an East San Jose-based entrepreneur with a focus on community development. His connection to Rotary began as a member of the Interact Club at William Overfelt High School. Later, he ran O'Brien's Ice Cream Parlor at History Park, which was a project funded by Rotary. Today, Ryan leads several successful ventures: Movable Feast, a food truck service; San Jose Made, a platform for local makers; Moment, a pop-up storefront service; and Movable Inc., a consulting firm focused on placemaking and marketing. If you've ever been to some of the really cool festivals and things around San Jose, odds are this man has probably had a hand in them. Recently, Ryan worked with Rotarian and Council member Bien Doan to launch the Story Road Night Market, now the largest free admission night market in the Bay Area. He also collaborated with San Jose Downtown Association CEO and Rotarian Alex Statinsky to expand Moment in downtown San Jose, where 15 local businesses now thrive in formerly vacant storefronts. Ryan also serves as the co-chair of the Rotary Pickleball Committee, which you all saw today, and enjoys hosting campfires at his home for family and friends. I am confident he'll bring fresh energy and ideas to our Rotary community. So please join me in welcoming Ryan to our club.
Thank you. Looking forward to being part of Rotary.
Welcome to the 9th largest Rotary Club in the world, Ryan. We're so glad to have your energy in the room. All right, now for a little President's time. You know, something I threatened a couple weeks ago was to start bringing back fun finds, and I have a fun find in the room. Can I have one of the Red Badgers with microphones find Arthur Weisbrot right here in the front? I think Odessa's got a Roxana. Now, Arthur, you were spotted in the wild with something that I think is probably more of a ring the bell, but we've decided to fine you for this, and I want you to tell me a little bit more about this photo.
So, for the first time in my life, and in the first time of anybody in the game that I play for many years, I got a royal flush. Now, I want you to know, and you can't tell anybody, but this was in a game with federal judges. So, including a Court of Appeals judge, district court judges, several, one state court appellate judge, and this is a regular game that you can't tell anybody about.
Your fine might go up if you keep talking.
I thought that's what you wanted me to do. I try to do what I'm told. Everybody here will tell you that. Anyway, so that's the story. I really got a legitimate royal flush, the first time in my life, the first time in this game ever, and the game's been going on for over 30 years.
That's fantastic.
And I know it's going to cost me.
It's gonna cost you $100, mainly because you know, $1,000 worth of chips in there, and then there's like what the rotary lapel pin is missing. That's what this is really about, guys. So if you are spotted out in the wild and someone happens to send me a doctored up photo of you, you might just be featured next. Thank you so much for playing along, Arthur, and congratulations on that great poker hand. $100. Obviously, I've been focusing a lot on polio in very fun ways and also very serious ways. I want to remind you that World Polio Day is coming up on October 24th. Sandra Jewett is our chair for that, and you'll be hearing more about her. We'll be asking for each and every one of you to make a donation to polio through our club this year. The slogan is, every Rotarian, every year. As we saw polio break out into Gaza, we know that we poured a lot of resources there to get those kids vaccinated, and that continues. So the need is still there. We're doing a fairly good job of it. I want to be very positive about that. The other piece about when you make your donation, it's matched 2-to-1 by the Gates Foundation. So it's a pretty good philanthropic bang for your buck. So you'll hear more about that in a couple weeks. Avenues of Service is coming up. Avenues of Service is a district event where it's basically like a giant project showcase where you get to see all of the other clubs. There are over 60 of us here in this district, and see what their clubs are doing for service. I think you're going to be really motivated by this one. If you can spare the morning, sign up, come. They're great speakers, and you're going to meet other fellow Rotarians that are going to infuse you with enthusiasm for what we can do next in our club. And I think Mark McKenna, I believe that you tabled there last year to talk about our climate action activities. Is that correct? Thank you so much for representing. All righty. We sped through pretty quickly. I'm a little bit ahead of time, so I want to take this brief moment to let you know. Last week we had Mary Curtis come up here and talk about disaster relief. We don't have the exact plan just yet. We are still researching the best option for that. Leslie and Matt Breaker are at the Large Club Conference this week, and I'm sure they're wearing their pins, or I'll find photos of them and find them next week. But they're going to be talking to other Rotarians in that area and really coming up with a great solution and what the needs are. I have a dear friend who lives in Asheville, and I called him on the drive in today to say, hey, what's going on out there? Is it bad as we look? Are these being selective reels? Is it just like a highlight of terrible? And he said, no, this is truly terrible. I'm going to have to move. He just settled in there a couple years ago. He told me about when they find bodies on the ground. He's on a search and rescue team up there, and he never thought he'd be on that. And he said they don't even call 911 for those because there's nothing they can do for them. They get instructions on what to do when they find people who haven't eaten for a week. There are groups on the ground that are meeting the immediate need. As a reminder, Rotary, we kind of usually don't go in at the very first wave. We kind of hold back just a bit. With Maui, you heard last week that we held back to really see what the long-term trauma needs are, and we're addressing that in Maui. We're going to go in a little earlier than that this year. So please stay tuned, and we'll make an announcement either next week or the week after to let you know what you can do to help in Asheville, working with our Rotary clubs there. Okay, and on that note, sorry to be a bummer on that one, but I think you need to know. All right, let's bring up our program and get us started. Sparky's back.
I guess if you ever needed to fill a little extra time, the best person to have is a TV broadcaster. So tomorrow night, your San Jose Sharks will kick off the 2024-25 NHL season with opening night festivities. The Sharks will take on the St. Louis Blues at 7:30 inside SAP Center, but the festivities will begin at 4 p.m. outside the Shark Tank with a street rally that will include a DJ, food trucks, beverage, and a teal carpet arrival by Sharks players between 4:30 and 5:30, so you don't want to miss that. Here today to tell us a bit more about what's been happening over at the Shark Tank are two of my colleagues and good friends. The first you'll recognize from his more than 30 years of calling Sharks hockey as the team's television play-by-play announcer on NBC Sports California. He's a 5-time Northern California Emmy Award winner who called his 2000th NHL game in December of 2022. He's worked many Stanley Cup playoff games for TNT and has lent his voice out to various projects, including most recently the animated Pixar hit film Inside Out 2. Please give a warm welcome to Randy Hahn. After Randy, you're going to hear from Chris Shay, Sharks Sports and Entertainment Senior Vice President of Government Affairs. Chris joined the Sharks front office just shy of a year ago, but he brings a wealth of experience to Team Teal for his days working at Stanford University, Santa Clara University, and San Jose State University. At Santa Clara, Chris served as its government affairs representative, and at San Jose State, he worked on the team that purchased the Signia Annex, formerly the Fairmont, in downtown San Jose and opened it for 700 students. So in his role with the Sharks, Chris serves as the primary liaison on all government matters involving the Sharks organization. So we'll hear from Chris in a little bit, but I'm going to turn over to Randy now.
Thank you, Jim. The reference of having someone who could fill time, I sort of take that as Randy Hahn could talk a bulldog off the back of a meat truck, which I've been accused of being able to do. Thank you so much for having me here. Just for a little bit of context, some of you may remember back in the late 1980s when the city of San Jose voted to build what was originally San Jose Arena. I want to say it was Measure A, if my memory serves me correctly. And here we are about to start the 34th season of San Jose Sharks hockey. It's incredible. I was fortunate enough back in the late 80s to be part of a group here in San Jose. I had just moved here, And we formed something called NHL Hockey San Jose with a couple of gentlemen who you may or may not know, a couple of attorneys, James Hager and Greg Seal. Some of you may know these individuals. And all we were trying to do was to beat the drum for our new arena to have an NHL team, because of that, at that time, a lot of people thought the Warriors were going to move here. Obviously, that didn't happen. The NHL came to San Jose, and after 2 years at the Cow Palace, the Sharks have been a Bay Area and specifically San Jose institution ever since, and it's so exciting as we head to another season. And I'm going to be honest, last year at this time, I'm not sure I was bathed in excitement. Because the prospects of a great year for the Sharks last year weren't very good based on a number of circumstances that all came together during this period of time where the Sharks are rebuilding. And you know, if you're rebuilding a house, there's renovating and then there's rebuilding. And sometimes you start renovating and you knock that first wall out, and then your contractor starts telling you there's real problems now. And all of a sudden the renovation goes into a rebuild. And the Sharks have gone through a process of trying to renovate, then realizing that they needed to rebuild. And that's really what's been going on since 2019, when the team last made the playoffs and had that miracle comeback win against Vegas at SAP Center and so on. And last year was the last year of the teardown, fingers crossed. But I really do believe that. There are 32 teams in the National Hockey League. Last year, we were 32nd. So there is only one way for us to go, and that's up. And that sounds obvious, but I really feel like so much has gone on in the past year especially, and even in the past 8 months, to suggest that we really are on the rise, and it just remains to be seen how fast that will be. People ask me, hey, are the Sharks going to make the playoffs this year? And, you know, you have to be realistic. 16 teams make the playoffs in the NHL. So that means in 1 year we'll have to be better than 16 other teams. So the odds of that are slim, but they exist. And as my colleague Drew Remenda, who I'll be working with on all the games again this year on TV, said to me, I'd rather be an optimist and be wrong than a pessimist and be right. So we're going to keep that hope alive, but there's a number of reasons for optimism and for excitement. And for the reason utmost is that when you finish last, you get to be the highest rated team in the draft lottery to pick first in the draft. Well, the Sharks, for the first time ever, won the draft lottery, picked first, and we picked a young man named Macklin Celebrini. A great name for an announcer. Macklin's a Canadian boy from Vancouver, but what makes this whole story even better is that he played for the Junior Sharks. His father, Rick Celebrini, is an executive with the Golden State Warriors and living in the Bay Area. His son was already at the age of 12 or 13 identified as an elite young player, had to play somewhere, and the Junior Sharks program offered the best opportunity for Macklin to play. So he's got a tie to San Jose already, having played for the Junior Sharks. He went on eventually to play college hockey. Closer? Closer? Went on to play college hockey at Boston University. Now, for those of you who don't know about the ins and outs of college hockey, a typical college hockey senior in Division I hockey, and we don't have any Division I hockey here in California. The closest would be Arizona State. They have a Division I hockey program, but the average freshman in Division I is 20. They graduate from high school. They're usually not physically mature enough to go right into that competitive level of hockey, and they go to other buffer leagues for a few years, grow physically, grow their games, and then go into hockey as freshmen at 20. Macklin Celebrini was a freshman at 17. Then Macklin Celebrini won the Hobey Baker Trophy. For those of you unaware, that is the most valuable player in all of Division I hockey. all the teams in Minnesota and Colorado and Boston and everywhere in between. He became the youngest player ever to win that award. Absolutely remarkable, stunning as a 17-year-old to go in amongst some players in those leagues are 23, 24. Think of your own children if you have them. The difference between being 17 and 22 or 23, it's vast. He dominated at that level and really had nothing more to prove going back. So he decided to turn pro, and we're excited that he is going to be a San Jose Shark starting tomorrow night. And he has been a little injured the past couple of weeks, nothing serious. Unless something drastically changes, he'll be in the lineup tomorrow. Along with him will be another young man who's 19. His name is Will Smith, no relation. And Will is a college phenom as well. A year older than Macklin, spent an extra year at Boston College, so he comes out after his sophomore season. But all he did last year was lead all of Division I hockey in average scoring per game. So you have the most valuable player in college hockey and the leading scorer in college hockey. And you can imagine, one played for Boston College, one played for Boston University. They went at it, you know, within their league, game after game. And the big hockey tournament in the Boston area every year is the Beanpot Tournament. It might be the most famous hockey tournament outside of the actual NCAA competition itself. And they went head-to-head in that last year. And as Macklin said the other day, he hated playing against Will Smith because Will had 3-4 points a game. That's how you become the leading scorer in Division I hockey. So Will make his NHL debut tomorrow night for the San Jose Sharks as well, alongside Macklin, and their parents will be there, their families will be there, and it's going to be a very special night. So these are our two key acquisitions for the Sharks via the draft and now as pros, and development will come with that as well. So we're basically handing the franchise keys over to a couple of teenagers. Good plan, right? But there is more to it than that, and of course, the Sharks have carryover players from last year, although tomorrow night, based on what I think the lineup's going to be, we'll have 9 players in our lineup out of 20 tomorrow night that weren't with the franchise last year. So that's quite a turnover. But what our general manager, Mike Greer, did, in addition to drafting these young players, is did his best to surround them with some veteran players to help bring them along. It's a tough grind, the National Hockey League. These college players are used to playing maybe 40, 50 games a season. Well, our season is 82, and that's before playoffs if you make them. It's a huge grind. There's travel that these players aren't used to. There's living away from a campus life, or in some cases their families that they're not used to. And in the case of Macklin and Will, I think it's another wonderful part of hockey culture that 2 of our greatest players ever will welcome these players into their house this year. Macklin Celebrini will live with Joe Thornton and his family here in San Jose. And Will Smith will live with Patrick Marleau and his family. You know, they have young children, both Patrick and Joe, but they're opening their doors. And it's something it's a little bit part of the culture of hockey. When Patrick Marleau came to the Sharks, he was 17 and turned 18 before he played his first game. Patrick lived with our goalie that year, Kelly Rudy, and his family. So they're passing it on, and it's a wonderful thing. It's mentorship. It's helping these young men grow into men and professional athletes, and simple things like making sure they get proper meals. I don't know about you, but when my sons were 18 years old, they didn't know how to cook. So they'll be looked after well by those families. But in addition to that mentorship, the Sharks have also added some free agents. Tyler Toffoli, a Stanley Cup champion with the Los Angeles Kings, the Sharks signed him to a 4-year contract. So this is a player who's made a decision to make San Jose his home for the next 4 years at least. And he will provide a lot of leadership, scoring too. He had his best year ever, scoring over 30 goals last year. He'll help us on the ice and help these young players off the ice. Barclay Goodrow, and I referenced that game against Vegas back in 2019, And for those of you who don't remember or never heard of it, it was Game 7, the deciding game of a playoff round against our rivals, the Vegas Golden Knights. And with 10 minutes left to go in that game, the score was 3-0 Vegas. And in those final 10 minutes, the Sharks came from behind. The game went to overtime, and Barclay Goodrow scored the winning goal for the Sharks. And it stunned the hockey world, especially the Vegas Golden Knights, which felt good. But Barclay has returned, and he'll be a mentor, along with the ones that we inherit, our captain, Logan Couture, who unfortunately is injured right now, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who will go, I believe, Scott, over 1,300 NHL games played this year. He will go into the history books as one of the longest playing players, certainly with one franchise in NHL history. So we have a collection of players around these young players that will help them get through the tough times. Even the best teams in the league, the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup last year. There's losing streaks. There's bad nights. We had 2 last year in particular that were 2 of the worst nights in franchise history. We gave up 10 goals 2 games in a row, something that had never happened to our franchise before. That hopefully isn't going to happen this year. I'll go right now and say I'll match that $100 for the Royal Flush if the Sharks give up 10 goals in a row in 2 games this year. I don't think it will happen. But, you know, there are tough times. There are obstacles even for the most veteran of players. But for these young guys, if we want them to become, and I don't want to put undue pressure on them because we're talking about Hall of Fame caliber players, but the hope is that these high draft picks, and we picked Will Smith last year 4th overall, and Macklin 1st overall, our hope is that these can become the next Joe Thornton, the next Patrick Marleau, or Joe Pavelski, or pick whoever your favorite Shark during this era of where the team has had so much success and been a perennial playoff team and Stanley Cup contender. That's the hope. Nothing's ever linear. It's pro sports, it's people, it's personalities. Things happen. I always say, I describe the NHL season because of the long grind of it. It's a roller coaster ride wrapped up in a soap opera. There's going to be ups and downs, and things that you never expected to happen are going to happen. But if you've got some players who've been through this, and I was just adding it up today, I mentioned Tyler Toffoli, who won the Stanley Cup with LA, Barclay Goodrow, who left the Sharks, went to Tampa Bay, won 2 Stanley Cups there, and now comes back. We have Nico Sturm, who's won the Stanley Cup with Colorado, and we have Jan Ruda, who's won the Stanley Cup twice with Tampa Bay with Barclay Goodrow. They were both there at the same time. So we now have 6 Stanley Cup rings in our dressing room. It's not by accident. There are reasons that these players are added to the mix. You need that experience. You need that depth of knowledge of what it takes to get through the tough times and also to temper your emotions through the good times. Never too high, never too low, and understanding that if you want to go all the way and have a parade in downtown San Jose some June in the future, it's a grind, and you have to know how to get there. And these players know how to get there, these veterans who I just mentioned, and will, I think, not hold the hand of these young players, but certainly guide them when they need it. Hey, as we all needed growing up through our teens and as young adults, guidance is important, and whether that comes from your parents or other mentors, and in this case, it'll be mentors and co-workers on the ice, it's so valuable, and it's why the Sharks went out and did what they did. We have players from last year that took big steps. William Eklund, a young first-round draft pick of ours, he had a breakthrough year last season. Fabian Zetterlund, another name to remember this year as a player who really made strides last year, led us in scoring with 24 goals. And defense is such an important part of our sport. We added 2 key defensemen this year, Cody Ceci, who we traded for from Edmonton. He went all the way to the final and lost Game 7 with the Oilers last year. Jake Wallman, a talented player who we added from the Detroit Red Wings. And the other big move that we made over the summer was in goal. I'm often asked, what's the most important position in hockey? And You know, there's a debate over this. Center icemen are incredibly valuable. They distribute the puck, they play defense, and they're key to having a good team. A defenseman who is just a stud back there and is going to lead the group defensively is important. But a goaltender is the last line of defense, and if he's beaten, there's a horn and there's a goal up on the board, so you need a good one. And the Sharks made a trade late in the summer to acquire Yaroslav Askarov from the Nashville Predators. He wasn't playing in the NHL last year, but he's regarded as the best goalie not in the NHL right now, among all the goalies in the world. So this is a young player who's 22. He's from Russia. He'll start the season with the San Jose Barracuda just down the street here. But we'll see him with the Sharks this year. And if things go as are hoped, because the Sharks paid quite a price with Nashville to acquire Askarov, the hope is we've got somebody like Yevgeny Nabokov, who was the goaltender for a decade here for this franchise, and hopefully he can take us one more level than Nabby was able to, and that's to a Stanley Cup championship at some point down the line. So the Sharks are going to be much better this year in many ways. I don't know how many more wins that will add up to. We'll see. Again, you never know with injuries and what goes on throughout a year. But I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be a lot more fun to broadcast the games. The Sharks will be competitive. They'll be exciting. As you can imagine, with young people like Macklin and Will, there will be mistakes, and quite often mistakes end up in your net, but there will also be moments of brilliance that will show us just why these players were so highly regarded, not just by us, but believe me, no matter who would have won the draft lottery back in June, they would have picked Macklin Celebrini. There was no question that he was going to be the number one player picked. So we have a future. Last year, we knew we had Will Smith already, but we didn't have Macklin. We didn't have Askarov. We didn't have Toffoli. We didn't have Goodrow back. We didn't have a number of other players who we have added to. It was very hard to see the future last year because we were still declining, to be honest with you. And it was a tough year, and kudos to our fans who hung in and came out. But this year, you can see the vision for the future. You'll see some of it on the ice. Some of it's with the Barracuda. We have some other young players who are still with their college teams or junior teams that are extremely promising. And you can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, and that was hard to see last year. And that's what makes this year so exciting. I'm re-energized. I've been off since April. It's been a long off season, so I should be re-energized, but in a much different way. There's a level of optimism this year that I haven't felt around the team maybe since we got Joe Thornton back in 2006, and we were in a really tough spot that year, and we ended up rallying, and Jonathan Chichu scored more goals than anybody else in the NHL that year, and Joe was the most valuable player. And by the way, we will retire Joe's jersey to the rafters next month, which will be a very special moment as well. But it's that kind of a feeling, like something's percolating, something special is happening here. And we'll see how long it takes, hopefully sooner than later. Before I'm done this, and this is my 34th year of being around, I want to see that Stanley Cup hoisted by a Shark, and I want to be at that parade here in downtown San Jose before I'm done, and I feel good that we're on the right track as we head into our season tomorrow night. We will take some more questions a little bit later, but that's my time, and I'm going to turn it over now to our Vice President of Government Affairs, Chris Shay, who's got more to tell you about his side of things. Thanks for your time, and again, back with some questions, so come up with some good ones.
Sure, Jim. Put me between a Sharks cinematic and TV legend and the future legends of the Sharks. This is a great positioning for me. I appreciate it, Jim. Chris Shay, very quickly, we want to stay on time. Chris Shay, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs. I have a story to tell you about the reinvestment. Many of you were here and talked about the years from 1989 through 1993. The Sharks have done some auditing. We think the Cow Palace held 200,000 people by the number of people tell us that were in the Cow Palace. So just so you know, we're keeping track of that. These two gentlemen left college after a year to be able to get out. My wife teases me that it took me 24 years to get out of higher education, you heard, but very proud to be with the Sharks organization and meeting those high expectations that Randy so ably lined up for the future as TL. Really quick, a very quick reintroduction to the Sharks organization, Sharks Sports and Entertainment. We are a juggernaut of activity, economic activity for our city. All relationships, we are the oldest public-private partnership, most successful in the city of San Jose's history. We pride ourselves on our partnership with the city of San Jose. We work very closely with them. There is a statistic on your screen right now, the $1.25 billion over 5 years. City of San Jose folks, the staff, we think of them very highly. They talk about this being an old marriage, and sometimes you disagree, but you have to value people's opinion. We ran our economic analysis in such a way with very, very strict assumptions associated with that, with the dollars that are produced by the Sharks organization in this town over 5 years, $1.25 billion over 5 years. Similar studies were done at PNC Raleigh, a city half the size of San Jose, and they came up with $3 billion. You'll notice that Chase just released theirs, same 5 years, they were at $4.2 billion. So we respect our city partners. We'll always publish the numbers per their assumptions, we'll work with them, but we're talking about billions of dollars worth of impact, and something we're very proud about bringing here. We have 10 sheets of ice in 5 different locations. We'll be adding, or 4 different locations. We'll be adding a 5th soon in Gilroy, 2 new sheets of ice to add to that impact in other cities. But this 1.25 is here in Santa Clara with the Shark Sports Entertainment. We have the largest amalgamation of ice facilities west of the Mississippi at the Sharks Ice. If you have not been to TechCU to see our Barracuda, highly recommend doing that. It is a very fun game at a very great price point at a beautiful new facility. We'll talk a lot about old soon. We have welcomed 50 million people through the doors of the SAP Center, making us one of the largest destinations in the South Bay history. It's about 1.5. We're shooting to go back to 1.5. It was 1.5 during the Halcyon Glory days. COVID set us back along with everybody, but we're planning to go back to 1.5 million visitors to the SAP Center. Little known fact, city audited numbers, and we're really happy with this one, they estimate that we have 1.7 million people that come to TechCU, come and populate our hotels, stay in downtown San Jose, and be able to camp out there and use that facility. So we're super excited that in total, about 3.2 million people come through the doors of Shark Sports and Entertainment facilities. $100 million that have been invested into the SAP Center in the last 10 years. John Gustafson, our Senior Vice President in charge of operations, you would have seen my name up here with his title. I would never plan to take that over, John. Has just done construction this summer that takes us over that mark of $100 million. Come on October 10th, see it on opening night. Come on October 12th or any time this season, you can see the great work we've been investing in there. We've done a lot of work with Ticketmaster to estimate we have 25,000 room nights in San Jose that we produce based on people coming to our facilities. That number will skyrocket when we get things like women's gymnastics, the U.S. women's gymnastics trial. That'll skyrocket to around 30,000. So these are real room nights that drive TOT, that helps our city pay for our great police officers, great services that we have. Really quickly, before I go into the next slide, the age of the facility, I'm going to compress about 10 minutes worth of stuff into a minute. The age of the facility, this will shock, I think, most of you in this room, because we all think of ourselves. People do not age, but facilities do age, unfortunately. The building is now the oldest in the NHL. It is now the oldest in the NHL. I'll walk you through the statistics that show that, but just to be able to put that out front really quickly. So here are the top 4. The New York Rangers play at the beautiful Madison Square Gardens. That had a $1.2 billion, it's not a renovation, it was a rebuild. They held the roof up and just rebuilt the whole building on the inside. Our Calgary Flames, one of our competitors out west, is opening a new arena in 26-27 that's already under construction. We will continue the Sharks' investment in this SAP Center, but the critical notion is it is a city facility. So when we continue to invest, we will continue to do that. We need a partnership with our city, and that's where Rotary comes in. That's where everybody in the city of San Jose comes in. We're proud of our facility. It looks good today because the money that the Sharks are investing, we have to come around. We cannot halt the aging of infrastructure. I've got a great talk about what happened in New Orleans. Nobody wants to repeat 2013 February. What happened there was a black mark on the city of New Orleans. That's the type of thing we all need to work on, electrical, HVAC, all the boring stuff that makes a building work. So that's going on with the top 4 oldest things. Well, what about the middle of the pack? What does that look like? Everybody, even in the middle of the pack in the NHL and NBA, are either investing or building a new facility. I'll point out 2 really quickly. Washington, D.C., $500 million that are going into the Capital One Center, and then the Hurricanes, $300 million that are going to that PNC Arena, tied to their future. So a lot of work going into this. I do not want to insinuate that anybody in this audience has grown older since 1993, but as we all aged and we all grew and became better people, the building itself has aged. So we're in constant conversations with the city. We're always open to dialogue. You are our city. We are your team. We are proud to represent San Jose around the world and be your international brand. And we hope by bringing this to you in an open communication, be able to dialogue about the future of the SAP Center. So thank you very much. We are open for questions. Randy, if I can ask you to come back, we can hopefully talk more hockey and less concrete.
Randy and Chris, thank you very much for a great presentation. Sean Cottle, classification real estate attorney. Randy, my question for you is, Logan Couture, our captain, he's been out injured. I think he played, what, 6, 8 games last season? Is there any plan to get a captain on the ice on a regular basis?
Well, it's a good question. Logan is suffering from an injury that's just been very difficult for him to overcome, and you're right on. He played 6 games last year, and we went 4-1-1, I think, in those 6 games, so we miss him. I don't know the ins and outs of the injury and how much longer it will be, but my understanding is that he's not practicing with the team and continues to recover. The Sharks did make an announcement a week or so ago of a leadership team that was somewhat expanded. Typically, you have 2, 3 alternate captains that wear the A on their sweater instead of the C. And I think we named 5 or 6 alternate captains, 5, to kind of expand that leadership group under Logan. I think at this point, out of respect to Logan, the organization, and Mike Greer would be at the head of that table, has decided to stay status quo as far as what the captaincy is, and it is Logan's. He is a Shark, and he's under contract much beyond this year, and they don't want to change that right now. Could that change going forward? Quite possibly, but our hope, fingers crossed, is that Logan can come back, play, contribute. We need him, we miss him, and then that whole issue of who the captain is will be moot, but I do understand what you're saying.
Tim Gill.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Tim Gill. I'm a personal injury attorney. I've been a Sharks season ticket holder back from the Cow Palace, not just 2 tickets, but 6 tickets, 4 tickets per season. So I'm fully vested. I've been to a few arenas throughout the country. I've been to Madison Square Garden. As far as watching an event, I think the San Jose Sharks arena is much better. I've been to Vancouver a few years ago. That was definitely a dowdy arena. I don't know if they've rebuilt it, but I'm not sure what you're looking for. Are you looking for the Sharks to or the city to rebuild a new arena? Or are you talking about moving? Or
So thank you very much for that question, and thank you for your support for that many years. I appreciate that greatly. So the conversation is wide in our estimation. We are the San Jose team. This is our city, and it's an incredibly important partnership. We would like to see reinvestment in the SAP Center, and we are at the table to do that. So we would like to put in some of the ownership's money in addition to talking about things that are important for if you break this down into tenant and ownership, we are a very good tenant. We'll continue to invest in that, and what you appreciate about that arena, all the new items, a lot of that has been provided by the Sharks, and be able to put up the scoreboard, the new ice plant, the escalators, all things that are at the edge of what a owner should be doing. We've just gone ahead and done that. We simply cannot take an entire infrastructure and redo that, so we're notifying our city partners that there's things that the infrastructure has to be redone. And we'll continue to invest in the plant. It's our home. If there ever is a discussion about a new arena, we'd love to be at the front of that parade to talk about that. But it's really important for us to have a home that everybody's proud of for the next 30 years. Does that answer?
I think we have Jeff Poley next, and then Kathleen Thomas, and then we'll get to
Hi,
the judge.
Jeff Poley. I used to run the lumber business just down the street from the ice center. I used to love running in during camps and be able to catch the first glimpse of the hockey players for the upcoming season. Super cool. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to make a statement that unless I am at the Shark Tank, and that's what I still refer to it as, despite the name that goes on the front, I just think that you guys are the ones, you and Dan and Drew, if I don't hear you guys during the broadcast, I don't really want to watch the game. I'll catch it later. But if I'm there at the arena, it's a great feeling. But you three are the only ones I want to hear, not the other carpetbaggers that come in for the playoff season.
Well, thank you for the compliment. The bad news is you're going to get the carpetbaggers tomorrow night on ESPN, but they're all great colleagues as well, and that's just the nature of the way sports rights go these days. But thank you so much.
So Tim Gill is too shy to follow up with his question. He's always been too shy. If you had your wish list, what's at the top 4 or 5 items that you want money for to change the Sharks tank? You hadn't addressed that. You just said you wanted more money, but what do you want to use it for?
So, great question, great question.
It was Tim's question.
Tim, very good question. I think it's important to note that we are going to reinvest in the arena on the front-facing side of things. We already have the penthouse lounge. All those things are Sharks investments. What we need is our ownership, the owner of the building themselves, to reinvest in the physical plan. If you break it down into house, as a tenant, you're more than happy to pay for paint because you enjoy it, but you're not going to pay for a new furnace. And so we need a new furnace. We need the electrical system, all those things. If the Superdome failed on that February evening, the 49ers game, all those things are coming to the end of their useful life. We need to sit down as a community and say, how do we reinvest in that physical plant? So I can name them all off in mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We got some contractors. We'll see if I can catch them all. All those systems are at the end of their life. Plumbing, mechanical, electrical, all those things. IT infrastructure, electrical. That all needs to have reinvestment. So the front of house things, the Sharks will always be there for. And we'll invest over the average of all the other competitors out there that all our other peers around the nation will always over-invest in the SAP Center in our home.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Kathleen Thomas, I'm sorry, we skipped you.
That's anything else, Arthur?
He's here to clarify your question when you can't get it right.
Kathleen Thomas, and this is a less confrontational comment. My daughter's always been a Nabby and a Hurdle fan. I'm a Marlowe girl, and talk about a loyal Shark. So I'm going to say my prayers that for Marlowe is on coaching staff, for you, Stanley Cup in the future. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
I believe we have Steve Ellenberg next.
So Steve Ellenberg, law practice, litigation. Arthur can't ask a good question, so I'm going to ask the real question here of Chris. In the Bay Area, having government entities invest in stadiums is no longer, in my view, acceptable. We got too many other problems. The Warriors built Chase Center themselves. The 49ers built Levi's. Why doesn't the Sharks use that SAP money and build yourself an arena?
I would take exception with the discussion of the 49ers. I spent 8 years of my life in City Hall in the discussion with the 49ers in the city on who actually built and who actually paid for that. Take great exception to that. But your point's valid. Where should we invest as a city? Where's our pride? Where are the things that we think is important? We make a case associated with what we do and what we can do for the community. We didn't, and I was short on time, we didn't talk about the cultural events, the center of the city of San Jose. This really is our center. And those fans in 1989 got together before the Sharks were even an entity and said, we're going to invest in this. The Sharks showed up and invested dollars and worked on a stadium that was on its way to being constructed and worked together to create it into an NHL stadium. So we've always worked together on this conversation. We'll always overinvest compared to all those other folks. We'll always overinvest in those other folks. I would put forth it is important. We have to be able to do more than than just a few things in the city. We cannot become just a city of one entity or one item with one issue. And we should be able to do more than just one item.
Thank you. Nicholas Adams.
Thank you to you both for being here today and for your topics that you've raised with us today. In addition to the Sharks as a brand just being outstanding, to brand San Jose on an international level, some would argue the best thing we have right now to brand San Jose on an international level. You've also increased opportunity for economic development in our city for so long. How can we, Rotarians, and business decision makers in this room, I'm going to give you a soft pitch here, right? You've got a room full of people who are very engaged in the community at large. How can we help you mitigate your risk so that you as a business entity help San Jose continue to be a vibrant place to live, work, and play? What are the top couple things that we can do to help you?
Nicholas, thank you very much for the question. It's okay if I tackle that one? Absolutely. So I think if I put two things out there that are most at the front of our mind, one would be the obvious conversation associated with every other city in America has had this conversation. Oklahoma City, I could go on and on about the conversation that occurs and what comes from that. I think we have to talk about investing in our future, and you guys are the future makers in Rotary. How do we continue to have that conversation? So as you guys gather around that, start that discussion, I think helping our city expand the table to be able to say, yes, we have to deal with some very serious issues, but we also have to continue to invest in our future and in the people that are bringing dollars to bear and investing in the city. You have to meet them where they're at. So I think that's one answer. I think the second answer, and this may surprise a lot of people, our good friends at VTA, a $12 billion entity that will be coming through downtown, we are terrified. Many of the downtown businesses are terrified because they are now, as of this week, rediscussing the fact that they may go double bore through our downtown. That will destroy the SAP Center and most of downtown. So staying involved in those conversations would be great, and that would be incredibly helpful to us as well as our small downtown businesses that we were designed to support. You're supposed to come to the SAP Center and then go out on the town or come from down the town to the SAP Center. So those two things would help us immensely to be able to keep a thriving business and keep your brand international.
I'm going to give the last question to John Ball, who knows how to build very large things. Hope you got a good question, John.
I'll try to make it quick. So, John Ball here. I want to know, with the lawsuit between the Sharks and the city over getting basically squeezed out with the Google project, and I talked to Jonathan Becker about it myself back in that day. Jim Sparacco knows that. Now there's a new market, and with Google pulling back on their project, has there been any discussion with Google? You're probably going to dive on this question because if you were, you wouldn't want to talk about it. But has there been discussions where you could build with some resources across the street, maybe with Google participating, and then there's a land swap to make up for what they lost on their side of Santa Clara, and maybe that property, once SAP gets demolished, goes back to Google? It just seems like there's an opportunity there. Could you comment on that?
So I'll be careful to not go too far, but I certainly will go the farthest to say we are open to any of those conversations, and we have very good relationships at a lower level working with Google. We manage their parking lots as an example. We're waiting for some of the small shoots of development that they've been talking about. Some things are coming this fall around us, and we've been talking to the Jamestown people who Google hired. But we would be open to a longer conversation. I think now that that history is behind us, Google is now not going to be bringing $19 billion worth of investment immediately. And now we can be a little more thoughtful about what does that look like? What is the added value for Google? We would certainly welcome that conversation.
If I could just get the last word here, because there was a comment about single bore versus double bore. If you watch the Sharks game on Saturday night on NBC Sports California, it will not be boring.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick photo. Let's step over here and we'll grab a photo. Thank you so much. A gift has been made in your name to the trash punks who are keeping our creeks and rivers in downtown clean and making sure that that stuff doesn't end up in the giant plastic gyre. Let's take a quick photo. You guys can applaud while we're doing that. You know, we raised close to $80,000 for the Veterans Day Parade, so I think we can do this. I think we can raise the money for the Shark Tank. There you go. Some of you caught it. All righty. Next week, don't forget, we are not meeting here. We are at the Hammer. Please register for the Lee Weimers Award. There's no cost to do that. Your heart will be warmed. You'll be moved. You'll be so proud to be a Rotarian, as you are every single week. We don't have time for final thoughts. I just wish you a fabulous week, and thank you for being such engaged and wonderful people. We are adjourned.